Welcome to On the Brink with Andi Simon. I know you come to hear us help you get off the brink. And that's what we try to do by bringing marvelous people for you to listen to so they can help you. And I say these words so intentionally: see, feel, and think in new ways. Remember, the eyes are where we decide. So you need to see or hear and let your heart begin to take you into places that you may not have been before because you didn't know that was a good place to go for you. But I'm really excited today because I have Dan Nestle, and he's here to help you see, feel, and think in new ways as well. So let me tell you a little bit about him. Dan is an award-winning strategic communications executive and communications technology leader. And you're going to hear today a lot about how the technology is changing the communications platform so that we can all, remember, speak better with each other. Because at the end of the day, we're still trying to do communications between us and among us and not just for us. It's important. He has a host of the Trending Communicator podcast, which was named to PR Week's Dashboard 25 in both 23 and 24. And he's recognized as one of the top 25 movers and shakers in communications technology. This is such fun. He has 20 years of corporate and agency experience, and he brings proven expertise in corporate and brand communications, integrated marketing, content strategy, and social media. And I love the idea of brand storytelling. So, in a world of AI and chat, GPT, and all the others that have come out, what does that do to our brand? And how is our brand now importantly auspicious, as our friend Mark Schaefer would say? And how do we make sure it really works in a way that communicates who we are and what we're all about? A little last note about Dan. While he was raised in New Jersey, he spent 16 years in Japan and speaks Japanese, a reflection of his adaptability, he tells us, and global perspective. For today, I'm thrilled to have Dan here to help you see, feel, and think in new ways in a world that's changing so fast you can't figure out what's new and what's not. Dan, thanks.
Thanks, Andy. And you're setting the bar pretty high. I hope I can help people see, feel, and think in different ways, because I think that's my daily chore or my daily task is to what can I think and feel and see new today? What's interesting and exciting today that can really help me and if like change the way that I approach my business and my life. And it's important to keep that kind of learning and curious mentality. I think going forward to as you step away from the brink, as it were.
Well, I gave them your bio, but your
Mhm.
journey, as you shared with me, is a very interesting one, particularly
Yeah.
going to Japan, but among other things, how you spent 20 years in industry and now you've launched
Mhm.
your own business and things are
Yeah.
beginning to change for you. Share your journey with them if you don't mind.
Sure, and I'll try to keep it as brief and as kind of succinct as possible. Um, so I started off in I started off after college just teaching English and just trying to figure out where I was going and what my life was going to be like. I went to Japan because I majored and studied Japanese, and I had no idea that I was heading towards a creative career in marketing and communications. Didn't even occur to me. And you'll hear a lot this theme of curiosity and of of technology and new trends and everything that is kind of exciting about the professions that we're in. And I've been sort of following that through my career. So I started off in that teaching and education world, but then I kind of pivoted over towards try to make my fortune in Tokyo as a recruiter, believe it or not. And that led me to a corporate job that was horrifying. And it was that horrible corporate experience where I was totally mismatched with the job, right? And here I am talking about curiosity and creativity, and on day three, somebody throws me the Excel Bible, and this was back along. This is turn of the century, about 2001, where somebody said you need to learn Excel, and I said, okay, where's the training? And they chucked me this big fat book, said the Excel Bible. So I immediately said, this is not for me. And I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I thought, you know what? I don't, at that time, I didn't have any kids yet. And I was thinking, okay, I'm going to do it myself. I thought, what could I do? And I knew that I could write. Pardon me. So I got these cards printed, said I was a copywriter, and started networking. in Tokyo among the international community. People believed me. Luckily, I started doing some copywriting, and that evolved. And eventually that led me to one job and to one client after another, led me to corporate communications and marketing, where from that point forward, I have been ensconced. And so after about, you know, 20 years or so in corporate roles, a brief stint at Edelman in between, running all the way from, basic marketing and PR all the way through to leading the communications teams for the Americas for large Japanese companies. It's been a wonderful journey, and I've learned a lot along the way. And I was always pursuing this, what's new and what's exciting. And then part of it was for to satisfy my own curiosity, but also I always wanted to kind of bring my team and myself, to the forefront of the profession. What are communicators doing right? What are they doing that could be improved? And how could we help the company in the process? And that led me down the road of communications technology and then ultimately AI. And with kind of a lot of my focus there, when you're in corporate jobs, you don't always have let's say, you don't always have the rope you need to follow the path that you want to, or maybe that's a very mixed metaphor, but you don't always have the wherewithal to go experiment like you want to. And ultimately, in the last about a year ago, a little less than a year ago, I was working for a large Japanese company, and the economy being what it was, there wasn't really room for experimentation, and we separated very amicably. A few months later, started my own thing called Inquisitive Communications, where I am helping people get comfortable with AI, mostly communications and marketing teams, understand the future better, and I'll help guide them and hold their hand through this AI transformation, primarily in the area of content.
But
So that's kind of where I'm at.
well, but it's as a newbie in the entrepreneurial world, you
Mhm.
have a wonderful background to bring to an audience who's also not that far away from where you are, because what used to
Mhm.
work in a corporate setting and was pretty comfortable isn't necessarily going to work tomorrow. But the hard part, I mean, I specialize in helping people change and
Mhm.
organizations as well. The hardest part is not knowing what's the new. And so we
Yeah.
stick to the old because it's comfortable, but maybe not either efficient or effective. And the new is foreign, and the brain hates me. The minute I say I help people change, they go run away the other way, put me in a closet, lock me up. And you've given a little of that too, because, well, the world of chat and AI and machine learning and blockchain, the fourth industrial revolution is here.
Yeah.
The attitude of most people is, well, it's here for you, not for me. If I can avoid it, I'm going to duck, sit under the table, and maybe it'll pass me by. I don't think this is passing by. But I can talk about what I do with it, but I want to talk to you about what you do with it and how your
Mhm.
wonderful company can help people begin to, and the words
Sure.
we use, see, feel, and think in new ways, because they
Yeah.
really have to put their hands on it and see it work to feel its trust. Tell
Yeah.
us, what do you help them with?
Well, first of all, what you just said there is so critically important is to put your hands on it. And the the initial, kind of response to AI or any new tool really is, oh boy, there's a learning curve, or this is going to really affect my
It's your
job,
Excel
or
Bible.
I'm
It's
sorry.
something like your
It's
Excel
the
Bible.
Excel Bible. Yeah,
Right.
exactly. It's like, oh, somebody's throwing an Excel Bible at me. I'm going to run.
Yeah.
And and granted, things like the Excel Bible would thrill a lot of people, but it's not for everybody. I think AI is a little different because I believe AI really is for everybody. I mean, I'm sure that line workers and people in hands-on manufacturing jobs might feel differently, and that's a little bit separate from what we're talking about. They might have a case there, but for most of us who are in professional roles, there's something there for everyone, and um, we get distracted by the bells and whistles and the news and everything that's going on with the new functions and the new features and the new this and the new that. And we get paralyzed by this idea that, why should I even start if I'm not going to be able to catch up? My job, or what I like to do, is kind of help people understand that it's not important for them to know everything. It's important for me to know a lot of what's coming, but even people like me who focus on it are not always on top of what's happening. But that's okay because what's important is how can it help you now? What are the use cases that you're doing in your daily job or in your with your team or on your own in your own business where AI can be your really valuable, useful assistant, like I think Ethan Mollick calls it your co-intelligence, something that can really empower you and boost your work. And there's a mindset shift that has to happen around that first. So you have to get comfortable with it. And that's where I think my first kind of order of business is just to make sure that the people I'm working with or, my clients, my customers are comfortable with AI. And that sometimes means training. It sometimes means an hour discussion. Sometimes it means, days of hands-on, kind of practice. But believe me, if listeners out there, it really usually doesn't take days to figure out AI can help you. I just want to put that out there. Um, that said, you get comfortable with AI and then understanding what your use cases are, then it takes you in different directions. So, then, I would help or I do help people and companies kind of try to put those use cases into play, whether it's to discover what they are, or to kind of work with them to fulfill what they already know their use cases are, with AI workflows and processes and stuff. And I'm having a blast with it. And the more I do it, the more I think that my focus is really best in the area of content creation and content development, especially for PR and marketing. But there are so many, I think, misconceptions about what AI can and should do. And as you mentioned, Mark Schaefer before, if we want to be audacious, the opposite of audacity is dullness, and people are using AI to create a lot of dull stuff. So how can I help you, or how can you help yourself to stand out? I think AI is a boon in that area and not a detractor. Not a detractor. It's not going to make your content dull unless you let it.
Well,
It
let's
can do
stay
the
on
opposite.
this because,
Yeah.
and I've been using this, I don't know, for a while now. I don't even remember when I got, I was just in love with it. Now I've had a staff, and I don't need a staff anymore. But I still have a relationship with AI that's almost weird because I say please and thank you. And sometimes I like what it gives me when I ask the prompts, and sometimes I don't. And sometimes I
Mhm.
upload something. For example, I'll upload the sound from this or the text from our, and I'll ask him to come back and give me a short blog for it and the keywords that are there and some title suggestions. And the titles are sometimes good for search for purposes and sometimes not, but they are a much more efficient and smarter than my staff were. And it
Hmm.
takes no time for me to say, well, I love that. I like that. I don't like that at all. Thank you very much. Can you try again? And they've even given me some great images, not always, but, and it's not easy to modify their images, but there are others that will do images. And so I have really been able to redirect my company to being more effective.
Mhm.
And, but it's also required me to learn my way through it. I had a proposal due in a few days for a client, and I asked it to give me a proposal to do ethnography. And sure enough, he came out with a not a bad one. And then I said, okay, now go deeper into each of the parts. And then it came back
Mhm.
pretty cool. I said, okay, now what kind of survey could I create to do some data collection? And okay. And it and I, whether it's a he or she, I don't know, had quite an interesting work session about
Yeah.
it. But to your point about putting your hands on it, I mean, I know
Mhm.
people who look at it and are scared. Well, it's no different than the staff person I had who scared me more. I mean, because their ability to understand what I was
Yeah.
asking wasn't as good as the AI's ability to understand what I'm asking.
Yeah.
And and this is sort of scary because it isn't any different than that person, but it is very different than that person. But
Yeah.
more thoughts, please. Take us to the next step.
Oh, well, I think it's interesting you're talking about the idea that your the AI has been it he she it whatever you think it is has been almost better than some of the staff that you've worked with in some ways. And it's not a surprise because when you're talking with especially for people who have achieved a certain level of expertise in their life. There's sometimes a gap, and there's often a gap between what is in your mind and what you want to do
Yes.
versus what your intern or your employee is able to produce. And sometimes there's a lot of like, churn in that whole process. If you're a single operator, if you run your own business, churn is not your friend. The time is really of the essence. If you're in a corporate environment, there's a much kind of smoother learning curve in many cases, and you have an opportunity in that case to, instead of worry about this knowledge gap between you and whoever's asking you something to do, well, then you can actually fill that with either your own knowledge or AI, or kind of follow a process. But I digress a little bit. I think for me, it's a similar thing. When I started the business, I couldn't do what I do now without having the assistance and the collaboration of a variety of AI tools. And I don't know if it's always right, but it's always helpful. Everything from creating my website, refining the copy that I write, and I write a lot, and I'm very picky about that. You know, Everything from your basic use cases like helping me write all the way through to uh, helping me understand some legal issues or helping me to figure out what the regulations are in New Jersey because I'm in New Jersey for an LLC. And, do I really need insurance? And the answer is yes, I do. And, these other things that AI has really helped me with that it used to be you'd need to hire a business advisor consultant to do, you know. So I've been really, really pleased with that. But, I think if elaborating a little bit more on this, I think where you should be kind of integrating AI into your work, at least from a communications and marketing standpoint, is this whole idea of dull content. And I kind of want to push on that a little bit, if you don't mind, Andy, because
No, actually, I wish
because
you would, because all content isn't good content. So dull
right,
content is bad. How do you
you know,
move for that?
so
Great, great point.
yeah. Well, I have this feeling or this prediction, if you want to call it that, because I like to I never like to say I'm a futurist because I've been wrong more often than I'm right.
Yeah.
But I think that this idea that AI is going to replace X, Y, or Z is not quite right. But on the other hand, it will be a kind of a mechanism through which and forgive the metaphor, the wheat is separated from the chaff.
Hmm.
And if you are a great writer, or if you're great at fill in the blank, then AI is not going to replace you. It's going to enhance you, but it's not going to do any favors for somebody who isn't very good at that particular role. It'll make them mediocre. It'll bring them to the level of acceptability and kind of competence that might be good enough for certain organizations. But if you want to stand out, you still have to be an excellent fill in the blank. In my case, writer, or kind of technologist in some ways, or strategist. AI is helpful, but it's not certainly replacing that. So when it comes to content, though, because content creation really is core to so much of what we do, it's how we build our personal brands. And for brands and for companies, it's how they really reach their audiences. You know, the world is fractured, the audience landscape is fractured, the media landscape is extremely fractured.
Yep.
The old ways of pushing out content, let's just say a thought leadership platform, or a white paper or some big kind of report, used to be you post it on three things and you kind of put some paid behind it, and then you put up a lead gen form, and voila, you've got the 40, 60, 80, 300,000 leads that you need. No more, because you don't know where anybody is. So instead, a lot of companies are just like, okay, well, we'll just create more content. And you know, there is a numbers game there, I suppose, where you might get some results, but I think the key is to certainly create better content and take what you already have, because I'm sure that you have a lot, and things especially that your audiences have already responded to, and figure out how to reimagine that, repurpose that, fix it, change it, or evolve it based on things that you're hearing now into still unique content that offers great perspectives, that offers your own point of view. Whether it's a white paper or a blog post or a social post, it doesn't matter. So with AI, um, rather than just delegate your content creation to it, I think if you take a strategic approach and you figure out, well, okay, what is your content strategy? Who are the audiences I want to reach? Then work back into AI and say, all right, what do I already have that I can then use AI to uh, radically change and enhance into what my audience wants now? And I think the vast majority of people, whether you're a creator or a brand who have been around for more than a few years, have a lot of content that they're sitting on and don't know what to do with. So I think this is the next step. I think the next step is understanding, okay, new and more is not the answer. The answer is really breathing life into what you have, but in a way that makes sense. And for that, there's no like magic wand. You have to have some familiarity with what different tools can do, what different use cases you can bring to the table. And I'm not saying you have to spend a lot of money on the tools. I'm not saying that you need to like spend hours and hours or days and days on a learning curve. It's not that hard, but you to see the connections between and among the different capabilities that are now at your fingertips is is going to be, and it is a skill, I think, that that's invaluable, right? And it starts with curiosity too. Like you're looking at your old content, you're saying, well, I wonder if I could take this and do something, or what if I could do something, it's
But
fantastic.
you're raising a really important question though, because the markets have changed.
Mhm.
And the question is whether the stuff, I mean, I mentioned to you that I've done 427 podcasts. And sometimes I listen to the early ones, and they were very different content
Mhm.
than currently. I mean, we mature over time. I mean, we have hundreds of blogs. I've been in business for 23 years. We've been
Yeah.
doing content for a long time. And and but you're raising a very important question. How do we repurpose? Since
Mhm.
search has made us an authority on, if you're looking for
Yep.
a corporate anthropologist in New York or elsewhere, up we come. You're looking for a blue ocean strategist, there we are. I mean, I got to stay focused on the things that are the three or four things I
Yep.
want. I don't care if I rank for everything. I just need to rank for some things. And I
Mhm.
need to be the authority that the search algorithm likes. But on the other hand, there's so many other ways people read you, find you, watch you,
Mhm.
and
Yep.
videos are so amazingly important. But I think I'm going to ask you to share with the listeners some of the tools that you find very
Yeah.
useful for the repurposing. I'm curious for ourselves.
Sure. Well,
But
I'll do
I,
better than
you
that.
might be too.
I'll do better than that. I'll tell you exactly what I'm doing. At least I'll give you a real, honest to goodness example of how this has been working for me.
Perfect.
And Andy, it works really perfectly, and sort of, especially with what you just said about you having a repository of podcasts and of interviews and of blog posts, right? So I think Notebook LM in particular, and we're going to get a little tactical and granular here, but not complex. Notebook LM in particular has been a watershed moment for me, or has brought a watershed moment for me in the world of my own creative journey. So
Taking some notes. Go ahead.
it is not the only tool available, but it is widely available, and there is a free version as long as you have a Gmail account. With Notebook LM, you can create essentially each notebook becomes a database of information and on any topic. With a free version, I think you can have 50 notebooks. With a paid version, I think it's 1,000 or something like this. But each notebook itself can store and I'll only talk about the free version, can store up to 50 sources, and each one of those sources could be up to 500,000 words worth of content. So if you think about that, a transcript for a hour-long podcast is something like 20,000 words or something like this. I don't know. It's a generalization, but that's a lot of transcripts if you think about that, right? So when I saw this, I thought, wouldn't it be great if I could take all my podcast episodes um, and really dig in to what really has been said on those shows, but in a holistic and unified way. So sure enough, I created a notebook and I uploaded all of my podcast transcripts, or at least the recent ones that are since I rebranded to become the trending communicator. So let's say there's 23 trending communicator episodes. So all 23 of them are in a notebook. So now each one of those episodes is a hour long plus you know long form interview with an expert of note. We talk about Mark Schaefer. He was on the show. We have other people in there. So now I can go to Notebook LM, which has all this stuff, and it uses the technology in Notebook LM is you use it just like a regular chatbot, just like you would ChatGPT in many ways, but it's really relying primarily on the sources that you give it.
Mm-hmm.
So almost no likelihood of hallucination or anything like this. So I can then ask it questions, or I can actually talk with my podcast.
Uh-huh.
So what are the major themes of the trending communicator, for example? And it gives me, oh, here's the themes that have been covered. All right. Or I can say, I want to write a newsletter this week. I saw something about the future of AI and the future of work with AI. So please, what have my guests said about the future of work? And then it will pull out everything that my guests have said about the future of work or related to that topic.
Wow.
Yeah. So it gives me a good starting point. So I take that content, and usually I'm a little more specific about what I'm asking for, but just for the sake of argument here. So I'll take the output from that, which is a very detailed, kind of briefing or note that's really useful. I might ask it to pull out some more quotes because, who has the time to go back into all your transcripts and find the quotes? Nobody. That's why you do it in seconds with Notebook LM. I'll take all that, and then I'll go to one of my other AI tools, which I think is a better writer. So in my case, I like to use Claude, which is the Anthropic model.
Yep.
And Claude, I've trained Claude in my writing style. And Claude has these wonderful things called projects, which you can set up. But even if you don't have that, with a good prompt and this content, now I can get it to write a draft for my Substack newsletter or for just a LinkedIn post or whatever I want it to do. Because I've trained it so much, the output it puts out is, I'm going to say 75 to 85% there. Like it's just about almost like if it wasn't me, who's really picky and kind of a perfectionist, I could probably publish it right from there.
Yep.
But I have to have my own kind of voice and like better. It's already in my voice, but I have to work with it more. So anyway, I take that content from Notebook LM, I move it over to Claude, I create this thing. I could do that 100 times in 30 minutes.
Yep.
If I want to. Now, I don't want to inundate anybody with crappy content, but I think that looking into your old content, in this case, the podcast, for unique insights that you either missed or forgot, or hey, they could be even new and pertinent based on something you hear today.
Yep.
What a rich treasure trove that is. You're sitting on a gold mine. So, I did that with the podcast, and now I have this kind of whole content engine running where I take the stuff from a Notebook LM, I go to Claude, then I take the Claude stuff and I generate some ideas for prompts for images, as you were mentioning before. I'll go over to Midjourney and create an image or two. I might take that and create a script that I'll then bring over to someplace else and kind of start to talk, see if that makes a good video, which I'm getting into now. So, it's the possibilities that it opens up are incredible, and I have not invested anything in new content. So scale that up to a company or a team, and I think the possibilities are incredible. And that's just one example.
Well, but it's a great example, mostly because it's real, it's you, it's what you've been doing.
Mm-hmm.
I feel a little
Yeah.
naked here because I don't have a notebook and I haven't used Claude. I've just used ChatGPT and I've been living
Which is wonderful, by the way. ChatGPT is great too. Yeah.
well, I think that part of it is developing comfort and trust. Part of it is
Mm-hmm.
knowing how to ask it for the right things.
Mm-hmm.
And part of it is knowing what your resources are and what the purpose is. But you have sort of blown my mind and said, "Ooh, you're thinking smaller. Think a bit bigger about what this can do and how it can help
Yeah,
you be the
that's right.
storyteller that you're looking to become."
Yeah.
Um,
And can I just add one thing, Andy? And that is that you don't need 50 sources. You could do that with 3. If you haven't been creating long, if you have 3 decent things, to talk about one, it takes you in these great directions. So
Well,
highly recommend people go there.
but it's wonderful.
Mhm.
We're going to wrap up soon,
Yeah.
unfortunately. You have a thought or two about brand storytelling in this world of AI and
Yeah.
the things. Give us a short version. Maybe we'll come back and do a longer one in a few months.
Oh, well, I think the quick version is to be human and to be different. Um, brand storytelling can't be generic AI stuff because people see through it. I think you have to have the solid principles of brand storytelling, and having an actual story with a beginning, a middle, and end, a problem, an agitation and a solution, or an and but or therefore, whatever your framework is, that brings the reader or the viewer into a conclusive loop where they kind of come on your side is critically important. AI can help you sketch out those frameworks and give you kind of some help with, oh, okay, you can structure a story this way, or you can come up with different controversies or whatever. But fundamentally, you have to inject the human uh, element. You have to be raw and authentic more than ever before. But beyond that, you have to know your audience and audiences, because one story will only appeal to a fracture of, or a fraction, I should say, of what you thought it would before.
Well, and maybe that was the same before. We just didn't know the difference. But now we know so much more. And it's a very interesting time.
Yeah.
Dan, give the audience two or three things you don't want them to forget. I've been making some
Um,
here, apart from
okay.
book and Claude. But you've given us a really important intro to how to use AI in communications development, content marketing, content development,
Yeah.
brand storytelling, short but really
Yeah.
very dramatic and to the point. Your last
Oh,
thoughts. What are the important things?
yeah. Well, I mean, I always feel like I'm giving short shrift to the whole thing. There's so much there, but um, if you're just going to take away a few things, number one, the power of curiosity cannot be underestimated now. And I think that's where communicators and creative people and marketers have a huge advantage. Ask a lot of questions, and now you can get answers. So always start off with this: what if I could, or wouldn't it be great if, or I wonder if I can do this. And the chances are that you can. So start with the power of curiosity. The second thing is get comfortable with AI. Put your hands on it. Get Find a couple things. If nothing else, get some free versions of ChatGPT and Notebook LM, or play. Just play. You're not going to hurt anybody or anything. And I think that the third point is this idea, and actually kind of works with uh, this fractured audience issue, is that more and creating more and creating new isn't necessarily the right strategy. Um, Look to what you already have, breathe new life into that, and that might take you into incredibly interesting directions.
I think that is really super duper. If they'd like to reach you for any
Yeah.
purpose, for consulting or speaking or whatever, where would that be?
Mhm. Well, you can always find me on LinkedIn, Dan Nestle or Daniel Nestle, like Wrestle, but looks like the chocolate. I'm pretty much everywhere there. You can look for me at beinquisitive.com. That's b-inquisitive.com. It's Inquisitive Communications. I'm on most of the socials as DS Nestle. And I've just started a new Instagram account called at Trending Communicator. It has, at the time of this recording, one video, but there will be more because I'm working on video now. And the final thing I'll say is coming very soon. I've been talking about this movie, this Notebook LM to podcast Notebook LM to this, whatever, repurposing content. I'm working out a good framework that I think people can use to make that happen for themselves. Uh, be on the lookout at my website, beinquisitive.com, for the new content engine, so to speak. That's the working title. It's not going to be called that, but think about it that way, how you can build your own content engine. And I'm happy to help with all of that. So
Sounds like that's a
find
bit of
me.
a how-to, and let me tell you what I've learned, and it'll keep changing. This is so cool. So for my wonderful audience, whether you're watching or listening, haven't we had fun? I always love to get off the brink with my guests who are taking us to new places, maybe we're still on the brink, but I think the times they are changing rapidly, and I don't think we should fight them. We should enjoy the journey. You said something important, play. When we're playing things, they seem so easy. And when we're making them work, they seem so hard. And play is really a wonderful way to experience what the new technologies are going to be doing, and they're not going away. You're not going back. So just enjoy the journey. Remember, I'm Andi Simon. I'm a corporate anthropologist, and I help our companies and the people in them change. My 3 books are all on Amazon. You can find them under Andi Simon. And I love to talk about a little anthropology and how it helps your business grow. And my 2 books on women and smashing the myths of women in business, or women mean business. And women do mean business today. And they are leading without limits as they're trying to build new companies, a little bit like Dan is, in fascinating and new ways, often with lots of purpose. So we're here to help. If you need a little help adding anthropology to your toolkit, don't be bashful. Come find us. We too are on LinkedIn, and SimonAssociates.net is right there on the internet waiting for you. And I'm going to say goodbye. Have a wonderful day. Dan, thank you so much for coming. It's really been a
My
pleasure.
pleasure. It's been
Yeah.
an honor. Thanks so much for inviting me, Andy.
Well,
Appreciate
I'm
it.
going to go listen to your podcast and learn a little bit more. And
Thank you.
goodbye, everybody. Let's say goodbye. Have a great day. Remember, turn
Bye.
your observations into innovations and tell us all about it. Bye bye now.
I like that.